Good afternoon. This is Queenie Clem with Queenie's Book Talk and Reviews, and I am your literary ambassador. And today we have uh, Lesile Hudson, and we're going to talk about being a survivor of breast cancer. And we're going to talk about a little bit about the retreat coming up in 2 weeks. How you doing today?
I'm doing great, Queenie.
All right. First question. When were you diagnosed and at what age?
I was diagnosed last May. I got the official notification a day before my 59th birthday.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. How did you feel when you first got diagnosed?
Well, the process actually started beforehand, when they suspected. I had a biopsy, a whole lot of things happened prior. That it was actually, I believe, April 2nd. It was a Monday. And I had just gone in for my regular mammogram. And I will confess, I was like 2.5 years late. FYI, ladies, don't do that. But anyway, I was late. And the reason I had kept putting it off is because for years with my right breast, I always had to go back for a follow-up. It seems like whenever I went for a mammogram, I had to go back for a follow-up. I was just, and even though it ended up being nothing, it's just the anxiety of having to go back for a follow-up. So I kept putting it off. And so it was 2.5 weeks later, and actually it was Easter Monday. It was a Monday after Easter last year, 2018. And I was off because I work for the school system here. And I was going to cancel it. And I'm like, Lesile, you know what? You've been doing this for 2.5 years. Just keep this appointment. I went in and the young woman said to me as I'm checking in, do you want 3D? And I just said, yeah, I guess so. I had never had 3D before, didn't know much. Like I said, I had been there for 2.5 years. So I said, yeah, sure, I guess so. Went in, had my mammogram as usual. But this time it was 3D. It didn't seem any different. And of course, I get the little letter in the mail, a little phone call, as I've had in prior years. Come back, we see something, but this time it was in my left breast. Never had that happen. I said, my left breast, I'm wondering if they got this right. It's normally the right breast they want to see again. But they said it was the left breast. I went probably about maybe 10 days, maybe not even 10 days, let's say about 8 days later. I went back in and had a diagnostic mammogram. That's usually what they do next. Diagnostic mammogram followed by a sonogram. And so when they do that, they first do the diagnostic mammogram. And then the radiologist will look at the pictures and decide whether or not to move forward with a sonogram. Because again, I've had this happen before in the right breast. Everything's always been benign. So I went in for the diagnostic mammogram, but this time they wanted to do the sonogram. And so the sonogram was done on the left breast. I kind of was, at that point, I think that radiologist knew something was up. Though he didn't say, because that wasn't his place to say anything. But then I didn't, he said, well, I really think we still see what we see in the left breast. I really think you should have a biopsy. So I, of course, started feeling a little nervous, but I scheduled the biopsy, went to the biopsy probably at this point, it's late April or maybe like the very beginning of May, because my birthday is the 9th of May. And had a phenomenal radiologist. She was very encouraging. She said, Mrs. Hudson, what we see here, it may not even be anything, but if it is what we don't want it to be, it's so small. I had the same thing like 18 years ago. I still got both of my girls Don't worry about it. You'll be fine. She was just very encouraging. So then I had it done. And like I said, it was a day or two before my birthday. So it's probably like May 7th. She gave me a call. I was at work. It was in my office. She said, Mrs. Hudson, this is Dr. So-and-so. Yes, what we saw was, there's cancer in your left breast. I didn't even know what the next step was going to be. So I said to her, what next? She says, well, you can call a breast center. I live in Howard County, Maryland. She said, you can call the Howard County Breast Center in Columbia, Maryland, or you can call such and such. I didn't know what to do. So I just wrote down the information, said, okay. I had two coworkers who I was close to who were in an office outside of my office. I called them in. I said, close my door. They closed my door. I said that I had breast cancer. And then I screamed and fell to my knees and they caught me. No one in my family has ever had breast cancer. I don't have a history of breast cancer. Mm-hmm. And I'm talking about no aunts, no cousins, nobody, no sister, no mother, nobody has ever had breast cancer. I don't even have a family of cancers. You know how some families have cancers? Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I don't even have a family of cancer. So it just came out of left field. So how did I feel? I fell on my knees and screamed and cried mm-hmm. while these two women held me. Because I never, ever thought in my life that I would get that diagnosis. So the feeling was overwhelming. There was fear. And I'm a believer, but I'm just going to be real about it. I was scared. There were so many unknowns. It was just overwhelming. Mm-hmm. I don't know what more to say, but that was my initial reaction.
Okay. What stage were you diagnosed with?
Eventually, stage 1.
1. Okay.
Yes.
Oh, you say there was no family history of
family history at all. No cousins, like I said, no aunts, no sister, no brother, nobody, nada. No grandmothers, nada. Just me.
Wow. Did you have support, like a support network, like family, friends?
I did. Well, my parents are still living, thank the Lord. Mm-hmm. Though they live about an hour and a half from me. I'm in Maryland. They're in Delaware. My siblings are in Delaware, so I have a very supportive family. Of course, my husband was very supportive. Mm-hmm. I didn't tell my sons. I have twins, and they're in college, but I didn't want them to know because they were in the middle of their semester. So I didn't tell them. I have sorority sisters who really wrap themselves around me, 3 in particular that I'm extremely close to. And then, of course, the sisters at my church. I have some sisters at church that I'm very close to. They knew as well. And that's important because I'm going to tell you, so many times I wanted to jump into my pity party and they wouldn't let me. Mm-hmm. So a support is, don't keep it to yourself. Sometimes, women, I don't want to talk about it, but mm-hmm. I tend to be very open when it comes to these things. I don't keep it to myself. I don't go in, let me just, woe is me. I was woe is me, but I'll go woe is me with my friends around me. So yes, I did.
Tell me about your treatment process.
Okay, so my treatment, so I decided to go to the Howard County Breast Center. Mm-hmm. And when I called to make my appointment, they said to me, well, we have 2 doctors here. It's actually connected to Johns Hopkins in Baltimore, because I only live in, I don't know, maybe 20 or so minutes from Baltimore, a little longer from Hopkins, but downtown Baltimore, no more than like 20 minutes. So anyway, she said, it's run by Hopkins. There's 2 doctors that are there, and one male, one female. She said, do you have a preference? I said, who can I see first? She said, well, the next appointment is with the male doctor. Fine, I'll take him. And so I went to see him. His name is Dr. Oyhus. He's a phenomenal, he's actually a surgical oncologist, phenomenal doctor. And just put a plug in, I didn't know it at the time. I didn't find out too much later after my treatment was almost over, but he runs the breast center at Johns Hopkins Hospital. He is the chief. But anyway, see how God orchestrated that thing? I had no idea, Queenie, no idea. But anyway, I went to see him and I took a friend. That's important. Don't go by yourself, because they're giving you so much information. So I went to see Dr. Oyhus. And like I said, he's a surgical oncologist. And he said, Mrs. Hudson, from what we see, we think you need to have a lumpectomy. He says, you have 2 choices. You have lumpectomy with radiation, or you can just do a mastectomy. I said, well, as long as I don't have to do chemo. He said, well, we don't know about that yet. And I said, well, I don't want to do any chemo. He said, well, Mrs. Hudson, we don't know about that yet. And I'll explain that to you in a minute, Queenie. So anyway, he went on to tell me, he said, but your breasts are so dense, and a lot of Black women have dense breasts. Your breasts are so dense, and I've seen your films. He says, and I want you to have a breast MRI. I told him flat out, no, I'm not going on a hunting to look for nothing else. And my friend said, well, Leslie, listen to her. I said, nope, I'm not doing it. And he said, listen, Mrs. Hudson, if you were my wife or you were my daughter, I would tell them, you are getting a breast MRI. Your breasts are so dense, we need a better look. I'm like, okay. Between him and my friend, they convinced me to do it. So the next step, because he wanted all these things done before he did surgery. So the next step is I went and had the breast MRI. Well, that came back and showed that there was something in the right breast. By then, Queenie, I was ready to lose it. I said, you already told me the left breast.
Yep.
Now you telling me the right
breast? Yes.
I was like, oh my God. So, and they said, and because what we see in the right breast is so small, we want you to have a breast MRI guided breast biopsy. So they're going to do a biopsy in the right breast, but they're going to have to do it not with sonogram, but with MRI. Right. And so I remember that morning, and I'm crying. And that radiologist, she says, Ms. Hudson, why are you so upset? And I said, well, I already have cancer in my left breast, and now they suspect something in the right breast. I said, this is just too much. And she said, well, we just want to make sure, and I'm like, yes, I know. And so, of course, I had that. That was on a Thursday. It was probably now about the middle of May. So I had the breast MRI, the MRI guided biopsy on the right breast. She called me the next day on the Friday. She said, Mrs. Hudson, it's just some scar tissue from when you had your previous lumps removed out of your right breast. So everything is fine on the right breast. I'm like, thank you, Jesus, because I can't take no more. I can't. So the right breast was fine. And so now it's getting ready for surgery. So my process is I had surgery around about the second week of June of last year, and they removed it. And what they do is they look for what they call a clean margin, meaning they have removed everything that's malignant. And they look at it right under my doctor anyway, he looked at it right then. And he said, we got a clean margin. And so they took out 3 lymph nodes to check those for anything. And all of that came out clean. Now, the reason why even though the new protocols are if you are stage 1, that you don't need chemo. However, there's a new test they're doing. It's called the Oncotype test. And what they do is they take a specimen of that mass, send it to a lab in California, and they test it, and they can come back and give you give the doctors the probability of that cancer coming back again within 5 and 10 years. They give a score, they score it. And depending on your score, if it's low enough, they said chemo will make no difference. But if it's at a certain point, then they say, yes, let's do it because the probability is higher. Well, praise the Lord, mine was low enough that I didn't have to have the chemo. So by this point, I've moved from my medical oncologist, rather from my surgical oncologist to my medical oncologist. And so she says, no chemo, but we're going to put you on an oral med that you will take for 5 to 10 years. Many women may be familiar with what's called tamoxifen. That's for women who are premenopausal, but I'm postmenopausal, just turned 60 this year. So I'm postmenopausal, so they gave me a different med, but it's the same thing. Essentially, it's pushing you further into menopause because it's taking away the estrogen, because it's an estrogen. The type of breast cancer I had is hormonal. And so they want to decrease even more the estrogen in my body. So after I met with the medical oncologist, and she said that's, what her plan was, no chemo, just the oral med. And then I had to go and say the radiologist oncologist. Now she was the one who put the whole plan for the radiation. I went to radiation. It was 16 days of just a regular radiation with me laying on my stomach. And then at the time I told you I was 59, and they consider 59 relatively young. So then I had 4 days of what they call a boost, where I was at that point, I'm on my back, and they focused right in where the tumor was that was removed. And so the radiation is at a little higher dosage, and that's only for 4 days. So in total, it was 20 days. The entire month of August of last year, I had radiation. And so after that, I've been fine. I actually had my first mammogram since then. And they told me before I had it, now, Mrs. Hudson, this was April of this year. They said, Mrs. Hudson, you may have to come back in 6 months now. I'm just telling you, depending on what we see. Well, and I don't get regular mammograms anymore on both breasts. I get diagnostic. And if they see anything suspicious, I'm going right into sonogram. And that's what it will be for 5 years. So the first one I had this year, all they had to do was a diagnostic mammogram. They said, Mrs. Hudson, everything is so beautiful, we will not see you until another year. So
yes,
that's my story. I'm sticking to.
Yes.
Rambling, but yeah, that's it. So lumpectomy, radiology, radiation rather, and then the oral meds, which I've been taking now a little over a year. And it's been great. God has been faithful.
All right. Did you face any obstacles during your treatment process?
Well, it's interesting you should ask that. Before I went into surgery, you have to do what they call pre-op. And in the midst of doing the pre-op, my general practitioner, she said, your EKG looks suspicious. And so I have to send you for a stress test. I'm like, oh God. So you should have seen, my doctor's office was calling all over from Baltimore, in the county that I live in, the next county over, trying to find an opening where a cardiologist could quickly get me in, do the stress test, because they couldn't release me for surgery. So fortunately, I was referred to a dynamic cardiologist. You know, God orchestrated everything.
Mm-hmm.
She was so
Mm-hmm.
phenomenal. And she says, "Oh, you're fine." So I had the stress test. It was fine. I was cleared. So that was the only hiccup, because I didn't want to keep delaying it, because I didn't even
Mm-hmm.
have surgery when I originally wanted it,
Mm-hmm.
because I had
Mm-hmm.
a big conference that I was planning, that I was trying to get to. So it's like, I don't have time for this. I have got to get this surgery done so I can go to my conference that I'm hosting, and then, and then come back and continue treatment. So that was the only hiccup. Other than that, just great, great, great physicians.
Wow. Where are you now in your journey with cancer?
Um, I'm fine. Like I said, in April of this year, I had my diagnostic mammogram on both breasts. And like I said, originally they told me I might have to come back in 6 months, but I don't. Don't have to go back until April of next year. I still see my medical oncologist. I was seeing her every 3 months, but as of my last appointment, and because I had such a great mammogram, I see her now every 6 months. So I'll go back to her, I think in January, February. I can't remember the exact date now. Because when you go back, they still check your blood. They do lab work, they get results right then and there. They're looking for certain markers. So every time I've gone, of course, my markers have been great, and just taking my daily med. And even the med I'm taking, they said, it may cause joint pain, it may cause hair loss. Well,
Mm-hmm.
I'm here to tell you, I don't have any joint pain. I may be stiff a little bit
Mm-hmm.
sometimes, but once I get going, it's great. But I followed their advice of like really being involved in exercise. So I started doing boot camp, which is another story in itself, um, to strengthen and keep my bones strong.
Mm-hmm.
And they said I might have hair loss, but my hair was thinning a little bit, but now it's thickening back up. Um, so I really can say, if I didn't know I had breast cancer, Queenie, I would have think that I wouldn't even know I've had breast cancer. That's just where I am in my journey. And it's still like, did that really happen? I said to my medical oncologist, was this, now it feels like just a little hiccup in my life. And she said, yes, women who are where I was, it just seems like a little blip. And another thing is, I had the most common type of breast cancer. There's triple negative, there's triple positive. Those type of cancers are much more aggressive. Fortunately for me, I had double positive negative, which is the most common and easiest to treat breast cancer. And even my surgical oncologist said to me, he says, well, if you're going to get breast cancer, you got the type you want to get. I'm like, okay. At the time, I didn't know there were different breast cancers. I thought breast cancer was breast cancer. I have since learned, just from the experiences of friends, that breast cancer isn't just breast cancer for every woman, because there are different types.
Oh, okay. Now that being a survivor, what would you do differently when going through your diagnosis and your treatments?
The only thing that I would do different, Queenie, is that I would not have put off getting my mammogram. Granted, God was so gracious unto me that it
Mm-hmm.
was diagnosed at stage 1, but perhaps they would have caught it at stage 0. So I'm not so sure the treatment would have been any different if they had caught it at stage 0. But so my first thing, that's the main thing I would do different. And I tell any woman now, do not delay, get it done. And on top of that, get 3D. Because I don't know if I mentioned, if I hadn't had 3D, if that um, office staff or desk staff person, if she hadn't said to me, do you want to have 3D? We probably wouldn't be having this conversation yet. That's just how small the mass was. And the very first radiologist, or should say the second one, she said
Mm-hmm.
to me, Mrs. Hudson, I don't think we would have found this early if you had had a regular mammogram. And I know that all insurances don't pay for 3D, but I was just telling some sorority sisters yesterday. I said, listen, find some other sorority sisters, find some friends, find somebody. Listen, we got to put our little pennies together. My insurance doesn't cover 3D. Help me get this 3D. I can say it was worth, my insurance paid it for it, and more insurances are paying for the 3D. But if not, don't let that be a deterrent. You'd rather it be found at a stage 0 or 1 with clear, clean lymph nodes than it to be found at a 2, 3, or 4. Of course, the journey is very different. And I've had friends who've had stage 3, and it's a very different process than what I went through. It's more than just a blip, as I feel for myself.
Okay, now that you are a survivor, how are you're living your life differently? What are you doing differently now?
Okay, what I'm doing differently is I mentioned a little earlier that I do boot camp. At 60, I'm doing boot camp. I go 3 to 4 times a week. It's a challenge, but the reason why is that there's different, I love where I go. It's very encouraging. And I do that because the meds I take can weaken my bones. And so it's important to keep my bones strong as well as my joints. I did have a DEXA scan. My bones are great. And I want that to continue. Plus, exercise is just good anyway. And then the other thing that I'm doing differently is I actually do Weight Watchers. You look at me, I don't look like, oh my God, she's so huge. No, I'm not like that. But I still needed to lose weight. And so my goal is actually to lose 50 pounds. I've lost 15 of those 50. And I just started this year. I started it in July. So I've lost 15 pounds. And even though the med I take has slowed my metabolism even more, I'm still determined to lose the weight. My oncologist said you can lose the weight, it just will be slower. And the reason why the weight loss, my general practitioner said that the larger a female is, the more estrogen in your body. And so the smaller you are, the less estrogen. And of course, I already said earlier that my breast cancer was driven by hormones. And so I just want an all around healthier lifestyle. I have hypertension. And so my blood pressure has been great as a result of losing the weight, gone down a dress size. So those are the primary changes. Just doing the Weight Watchers, doing boot camp, all to keep my bones strong, to lose weight, and to keep, help keeping the estrogen to become even lower and lower, so that no cell has anything to feed off of it that I don't want it to feed off of.
Okay. What are 3 things you would tell a person who just found out yesterday that they had the cancer diagnosed?
The first thing I would tell him or her is it's okay to cry and be upset. It's okay. And there will be days where you want to just crawl in a hole and never come out. And that's normal to feel that way. Number 2 is research getting good doctors. I didn't know this. God just blessed me that way. All of my doctors, from the surgeon to the radiologist, and of course to the medical doctor, they were all oncologists as well. Some women have surgery, and it's a general surgeon. Nothing against a general surgeon, but because my surgical oncologist was an oncologist as well as a surgeon, he could call the cancer side too. And so he was the one pushing for, we're going to do the oncotype test. We're going to do this MRI. I mean, I see him still I still see him every year. For 5 years, he's still following me. Most surgeons, once they've done the surgery, that's it. But he's an oncologist too, and he wants to follow me. So, and even my radiologist, she is an oncologist, and she will follow me for a year if I so choose, or someone in her office. And when they follow you, they're not just looking at the film, but they're actually doing exams of my breast as well. So I'm having a lot of hands from the medical oncologist, my GYN, and the surgical oncologist, and the radiologist oncologist. All of them, 4 doctors, are doing exams on my breast throughout the year. So what I may not feel, they may feel. And so, and the third thing is surround yourself with positive people. Some people, I had some women who have experienced breast cancer, and they weren't the most encouraging. Don't come with someone with, well, you know, when it was me, this happened and that. I don't want to hear. Just tell me about the positive stuff. You know what I mean? Don't tell, you know, I had to have a mastectomy and I don't want to hear all of that. You know, give me the positive stuff. So put people, because it'll be natural for you to want to have a pity party. And I did. Sometimes I got mad at my friends because they were trying to encourage me. They weren't letting me go there. I wanted to go there. You know, I wanted a pity party and I wanted them all to join me at that party. But they refused to join me at that party. And let me tell you, and then you said 3 things, but the 4th thing is most important. Put your trust in God. Let me tell you, Queenie, when I was told that I had to go, that they saw something, what they thought was something in my right breast as well, of course, my anxiety level was even higher. And I was worried that I might have cancer in both breasts. And now what was I going to do? One night, I was in a deep sleep. I'll never forget it. And I know it was God. He woke me up in the middle of the night and repeated to me these words, and he repeated it twice. Trust me, trust me. And then boom, I fell back into a deep sleep. But I'll never forget that. So at the top of all those 3 recommendations, trust him.
All right.
That's what I would, even though it's not easy, trust him.
What message would you like to provide to women?
Get that mammogram. Get the mammogram. Stay on top of it. Get a 3D mammogram. And get healthy just all around. Through the exercising, through watching what you eat. I'm not a health nut by no stretch of the imagination, but I portion what I eat. That's why I like Weight Watchers. I'm not giving a plug for Weight Watchers. You know, something else may work for somebody else. That's fine. But I can't do keto here and this there. And that's not going to work for me because I want to eat what I want to eat. I'm like Oprah. I want to eat what I want to eat when I want to eat it.
Bingo.
But I have to make choices. You know, I have to make choices. And that's why I found that Weight Watchers, and I don't go to the meetings because I'm not interested in going to the meetings. I just do it right online with my little app. But yeah, just all around, because then it makes you better. Even my parents, they saw me for the first time in about, I don't know, 6 or 7 weeks. And they could see that I had lost these 15 pounds. And they said, you know, you just seem stronger, healthier. Even my doctor, I saw her, my general practitioner this week, and she says, "Oh my God, you're doing well." You know what? I'm living my best life, Queenie. I'm post cancer. I'm living my best life, girl. I'm serious.
Okay. Well, thank you for that session.
Thank you.
I really appreciate you being transparent and telling your story. Is there anything else you would about this segment of the interview?
The only other thing I'm going to say, if you do get that diagnosis, it doesn't mean a death sentence. You shall live and not die and declare the works of the Lord.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Now let me what's my issue? You had said earlier in the interview that you was in the education field.
Well, that's the story too. I'm actually retired from Verizon. I work for Verizon. My last position, I was a project manager. I managed a lot of big projects for Verizon. One of them, I was on a team that actually managed FiOS. But I'm sure many are familiar with FiOS, but that was just one of many. I couldn't even begin to tell you. I kind of stumbled into the education field. I'm not an educator, but I do work in a high school, and for sake of time, I can't go through how that happened. But I'm actually an administrative assistant to a principal at a high school, an urban high school. And yes,
I
ma'am.
didn't mean to do that. I didn't do sorry.
Girl, that is God ordained. I love them kids. And of course, since I'm the principal's admin, I see the ones that are sent to her and parents. But I really believe in this season in my life, two things. I want to help she's an African American, the principal. I want to help her succeed and go as far as God intends for her. I'm 60, not that my life is over, but I've certainly lived more than half of my life time. And so I just want to be able to go back and help her be the best that she can be. And then these are our babies. At the end of the day, all of them brown and black children, the worst of the worst, the best of the best, they're our babies. And whatever little bit I can do to help our babies, I'm there for. I go and I have one now. She comes to my office, and I can't tell you the issues this young woman by, but she came to me and she said, "Oh, Mrs. Hudson, do you have any of those salads that you had last school year?" I said, "No, honey." I said, "But I'm gonna get you some." And sure enough, I went to the grocery store, and when she sees me tomorrow, if she pops into my office, I'm gonna tell her, "Go back in my refrigerator, girl. I got your salads for you." You know what? It's not that she doesn't have food or anything. It's not that situation. But I guess had salads, and they saw it in my refrigerator. Can I have one? And there you go.
That's how they are.
Reason to be able to sow into whatever little bit I can do in our babies. Everybody else want to write them off. There ain't nothing wrong with our babies. They just need us to love them and sow into them. So that's my season. That's why I'm there, for no other reason, to help her and to be, I guess, their grandmother. I don't know.
Well, I'm Big Mama. This is my 21st year of education.
Oh, really?
And I'm in high school.
Okay.
16 years, and then I was in middle school for about 3. First beginning, I started out at elementary.
Okay.
So it is wow. That's all I can say. I got 8 more years so I can retire, but I don't know if I'm gonna stay that long. But they're my babies.
I love them babies. I love them. I love them, but they ours.
Yes.
They're ours.
Yes. Okay, we're gonna talk about Christian Book Lovers Retreat. Tell me about it. What can we look forward to as a reader?
Okay. Let me just say, as a reader, how I went to the very first one when Vanessa Miller, I know she's Vanessa Miller Pierce now. I don't think she wasn't Pierce, she was Vanessa Miller. And I had been following her and many of the other authors for years. And many of them I met on Facebook and just been following them and reading everything. So when she put out on Facebook, if I do a book lovers retreat, will you come? And me, along with a few others, said yes. She put it out there. I signed up. I went. I knew no one. I live in Maryland. It was in Charlotte. I flew down by myself, stayed in my room by myself. But I'm here to tell you, Queenie, I met some of the other fellow readers who did the same thing. Ella Wynn. I don't know if you talked to Ella Wynn, but hey, Ella Wynn, if you're watching this.
Yes, yes, I know Ella Wynn.
Yes. Well, I met Ella Wynn in person at the very first Christian book lovers retreat. She came with a friend. She didn't come by herself. She and her friend drove. I was by myself. They just took me in, and there were some women that were there from Delaware, and there were some women there from Maryland, and they knew that I had lived in Delaware because I mentioned it. The women in Maryland knew I was living in Maryland. They were fighting over whose table I was going to sit at, all by myself. So, I mean, they just embraced me. Come, even the second year I went, I still went by myself. There were some other women in my church who came, but they drove. I was flying. I ain't trying to drive from Maryland to North Carolina. Yeah. So I flew down again the second year. And some of the ladies I had met the year before, hadn't seen them in the whole year, but we remember each other's faces from the first year. Oh, come have breakfast with us. I went on to the IHOP. I couldn't tell you them ladies' name. They might not even remember my name, but we know each other's face. And we know we're on the same mission. And I go to many retreats, but this is the most special retreat for me because it encompasses my love for reading fiction as well as being Christian. Everyone, it's just, I can't, I can't wait.
I can't wait to 2020. I'm telling you. Woo, when I seen that roster with 50, I was in heaven. I was like, oh, That's all I read. That's my genre, Christian. I've been stepping outside the box this last year or two to do young adult.
Okay.
I help with a reading class at the school I'm at with young adult, and I really can't get into urban, but and historical fiction I'm trying to get into. That's my aunt thing. And she'd be like, I got a book for you. I'd be like, I done helped that book about 2 months now. I only read the first chapter. And
let me put a plug in for urban fiction about historical rather. I wasn't into historical either. I was like, that's just too boring. But then Piper, I can't remember Piper's full name right now.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. She said, Leslie, just try one. Listen, I need to look up her name. I'm going to get Piper's full name.
I know her last name, Hughley.
Yes, Piper. But wait a minute, she got 3 names going on. She probably going to say that Leslie Hudson. Yes, Piper Hughley. Piper G. Hughley. Huguley. I said, let me get one of Piper's books. I was hooked. And I never liked historical, but I was hooked after I read Piper's book. And so then I went and gave Vanessa Riley, and it says, I'm sold. And there's one more I read who does historical. I can't think of her name right now. Another African-American author. I can't remember, but Piper, Vanessa, whoever the third one is, can't remember her name, but I read hers too.
Vanessa Riley.
Vanessa Riley.
Okay.
Piper,
her name.
I
think I got a book by her, but I don't think I have nothing by Piper. But when I do, my aunt read. It's a particular African American woman that my aunt reads, and everybody love her. I'm not gonna say her name. Everybody loves her, but I read one chapter and I'm like, oh, this is just like pulling teeth.
I understand. I know. I think I know which author, and I'm with you. And nothing against her. I'm sure she's great. I haven't been able to either. But give Piper and Vanessa a chance, because I did. Because they'll tell you, I gave them a chance, and I've met both of them. No, did I meet Piper? I'm not sure if I met Piper. maybe I did meet Piper, but I definitely met Vanessa. Just wonderful women, wonderful. I think I did miss Piper. I think Piper was at the very first Christian book lovers retreat,
So
and
what
that's
are you
what I do.
so what are you reading now?
What am I reading now? This is a new author. I've never read anything. Oh, I know what it is. I'm reading a Christmas anthology. I'm looking at the reason why I'm not looking at you directly is I'm
Christmas.
looking for my Kindle to actually tell you what I'm reading now. It's actually an anthology.
Okay.
So there's several authors and uh, let me see. I'm going to see me turning because I don't know why I'm trying to be cute. Like I don't need my reading glasses, but I do.
I put this on my to be read list because me and my book bestie, she's out of Virginia, and
Okay.
we read books together. And I was like, we got to come up with our 10 Christmas books for Christmas. I just told her this last night, and I got all but 9. I got 9. I need one more, and this might.
Okay. This one has it's gosh, it's just not coming up. And I set my Kindle aside somewhere, but it's mm, mm, mm. and I have my glasses in front of me, so that's making it even more challenging um, for me to actually find this anthology. So it's not only African American authors in this, but there's one African American author whose books I read, and that's why I chose this book. Oh, maybe this is it right here. Let me see if this is it. Let me go to, yes, this is the book right here. Um, Once Upon a Christmas is the title of the book, but the thing about it is the book has several authors, and the author that's African American, her name is Toni Shiloh. So I read books by
Okay.
Toni
Okay. Tony.
Shiloh. So so Once Upon a Christmas.
Okay.
And so the first author, her name is Andrea Boyd, I believe. So I'm reading the very first story. So they took an interesting twist in that they took um, they took fairy tales like like the one now is based on no, Sleeping Beauty, but they took it and it has a twist to it. It's contemporary, and it's also Christian as well. So it's really interesting. So far, I'm actually enjoying it.
Okay.
So, but
I'm finna look it up.
yeah, Once Upon a Christmas.
Okay.
Okay.
That'd be my 10th book then.
Okay. But now there's
Alright.
several stories in that book, but it's great.
Oh, it's like Cecilia Dowdy. She gets
Yeah,
authors and they come with like a four books
exactly.
each one. Yeah, that's why I was thinking like that. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that'd be my 10th book for my
Oh.
Christmas books. I wish I could find some Thanksgiving.
You,
I'm trying to get with everything, but
okay.
right
Well, I
now.
can't help you out with that one. I don't know. I just moved on. I just read however.
So who's your favorite author?
Don't even go there because they all are standing. When they look at this, they all gonna say, "Okay, it's Tia McCullers, Rhonda McKnight, Piper Hughley, Vanessa Riley.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, Vanessa Miller Pierce. I'm gonna go throw them all out there. I can't even name all the Sherry Lewis. Listen, you're not gonna get me in trouble. Victoria Christopher Murray, you're not getting me in trouble. Jacqueline Thomas. And if I didn't say your name, you know you're on the list too. Pat Simmons. I primarily read almost all, if all, I give every
Mm-hmm.
African American Christian author, one chance. If you win me over with your first one, you got me for whatever you write. But I didn't say all of them. Let's say Rhonda McKnight. I better not leave out Rhonda.
That's me with Michelle Linda Rice.
And Michelle Linda Rice.
One book, and I went. I got all her books now, and she finished her and Michelle Stinson.
Yes.
Book.
All the authors that write with her, you know, all of them. I didn't say everybody. Kim Cash Tate, we met her. She came to one of the, oh my gosh, she's so wonderful. Ian Joy, she came to one of the retreats.
That's my homegirl. That's my homegirl right there.
Oh, beautiful.
That's my homegirl right there. I love me some. I love Ian Joy.
Yes.
I'm telling you.
Yes. Yes.
And I didn't know. She had a conference in Vegas in September.
Yes.
And normally she have things for readers to come one day, that Friday. And I missed last year and I missed this year. And I'm like, well, I don't think I should go because it's more toward authors and other instead of us. So I didn't think nothing about it. So that Saturday night she had a awards banquet.
Okay.
About awards. And so I guess it was Sunday night. Angela Anderson called me. She said, Queenie, she said, I just want to give you a heads up. You won an award at her banquet Saturday night. I said, for what? Because I coined myself the literary ambassador.
Okay.
For your blog channel and your blog. I was like, really? She said, yes. She said, and some lady named Stephanie Bridges went up in your behalf. I said, Stephanie, and she didn't call me. Somebody called me, and I still ain't heard from nobody.
Wow.
The way they took a picture together with my Ian Joy and Stephanie took a picture with my award, and I shared it, so they know I know. But they have called me and said, you won an award. I guess when Angela called me, and then they put it out there, and I tagged it, and I tagged myself in it, and then I shared it. I guess she's like, well, now Queenie knows, but I was shocked. I was shocked, and then she called me and told me that I had won for next year the registration. I was like, really? She's like, yeah. And then
that's awesome.
A week before that, I got it's a magazine out of Dallas. Feature me. And they sent me the questions to ask and told me to send pictures. And right before you came on, right before we did this interview, I had just submitted it. So
wow, that's awesome.
I'm excited about that. But it's some magazine out of Dallas, Texas.
Okay.
And I was like, I think I know who put my name in, Kim. Kim, the only author I know down in Texas, but I wanted to quit.
Okay.
My book best was like, no, because too many things happen. It's just not happening on your time. It's happening on God's time. So
exactly.
And have faith. And I was like, okay.
Okay.
But yeah, I want to thank you.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for being transparent and letting us know your journey. And maybe I'll see you next year.
Absolutely, because before I leave, I will be registering for 2020. Now that has become, I'm married. I have 2 sons as well. That has become my vacation I do by myself that I totally enjoy. I do have some sisters from my church who go with me now, but I don't even share my room with anyone. This is the one time I have a hotel room all by myself. This is my Leslie. Even this year, my mother is going to be 80, so I have to leave early on Saturday, so I won't be there for the banquet on Saturday night or on Sunday. But I had to go because Sherry Lewis is going to be there. But I'm flying on to Miami for my mother's 80th birthday. Okay. So we're all going there to celebrate her 80th. But, as long as God gives me the strength, I will find my way to CBLR. It's just phenomenal. It's just fun. It's spiritual. It's refreshing. I can't even begin to say all the words. You're going to be blessed when you come next year, for sure, Queenie.
Thank you. And thank you again for this interview. And this is Queenie Clem with Queenie's Book Talk and Reviews. Happy reading. Bye.
Bye.